editing, they're all pretty much straight cuts, and you only really notice them due to the shot length because they're very short to begin with, the conversation between Ed and Carl. But then they sort of notice it then. But then as the tension builds up, it has faster cuts. But then once it's relaxed again, it slows down a lot. And the temporal relations with the selection of angles is key to the scene because, as I said before, it gives an illusion to the size of Carl. The special effects, they actually use a green screen and computer enhancing with the shot with Ed and Carl. They sort of shot Carl on location at the swamp, but then shot Ed on a green screen and added him later on. So that with Carl, they enhanced a lot of the leaves and the settings around him, the props, to really give an emphasis on its size. And they used a scale of 1.6 for it. For the sound, diegetic sound, it's only really the dialogue and the marching band that we hear. The dialogue, it starts off, I think it really gives an insight into Ed's personality, because it really shows like how he's so confident because he's in front of this huge giant who's supposed to eat him necessarily, and he's just joking about eating his legs. And also the ambient sound contrasts between crows and the marching band of the parade. Non-diegetic, there's voiceover which has Ed's inner thoughts looking like, in hindsight, like saying, I knew that the giant wouldn't hurt me. And also he sort of dismissed the witch, what she says, like, as diegetic sound, but then under the voiceover we hear like how he said it's the most valuable to him. Representation, the main representation is Carl's size and his disability, because he's just too big for it, for the town. So I think the main part of the whole scene is his transition from being seen as disabled outcast to being accepted in society. And also the women are very stereotypical of the time period, because it's typical 1950s housewife who tells Ed to find yourself a nice girl now. And because of the passive tracking shot, we just sort of accept it. And also the women are also contrasted by the witch being brought into the equation. I think that the target audience is a family audience necessarily, because the younger audience can be attracted by like stereotypical characters that they might see in fairy tales, like the witch and the giant, and they can recognise them. And also aesthetically, it's very vibrant and colourful, and they can really make most of that. Whereas the older audience are attracted to the themes of like the father and the son, and also the contradicting stereotypes. For the genre, it's an adventure drama fantasy, so it's a hybrid genre. And I think that we can see that through the non-linear narrative, because in the present day where it's Ed telling his son the stories, that's sort of the drama element of it, whereas the stories themselves are the adventure and fantasy, because they have all the different aspects of it, such as like for fantasy it's got the exotic fantasy worlds of Spectre, and also the characters themselves. The narrative, as I say, is non-linear, and it's also omniscient, because as the audience we see what's going on all the time, and it's ultimately the retelling of stories, so it's a bit all over the place, but it's almost chronologically correct. But it's not necessarily historically accurate, because it is, after all, someone's telling of stories. They don't include finer details, such as when Ed goes to war. We don't know what war is. But and also when Ed's being given birth to, it's actually a black doctor that gives birth to him. And at the time, racism would have been very rife, and there just simply wouldn't have been a black doctor. So it almost shows like how Tim Burton's integrated all these different elements so they don't have to set in stone what time period it is, so that they have like the creative flexibility for the film. Tim Burton himself is very well known for his different themes of like father and son relationships, and before the film started production his father died, and a lot of the production team had like difficult relationships with their fathers, so it has almost a personal level for the director himself. and also it has dark or colourful themes, and in the film and in my clip especially, we see that itself. It was released in 2003 and it had a $70 million budget, whereas Charlie and the Chocolate Factory had about 150 million. And so it shows like how he really wanted to not use so much of the technology that he could have, because he wanted to give it a lot more realistic feeling. And awards, it was nominated a lot for its music, which was, and the soundtrack, which was by Danny Elfman, which was also the voice of the Oompa Loompas in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. For the actors, Ewan McGregor is not necessarily a Tim Burton actor. We normally associate Tim Burton with Johnny Depp, but this time I think it's gone against his typecast. Whereas he has still used Helena Bonham Carter, which we see a lot in Planet of the Apes, Corpse Bride, and all sorts. And he also said that films such as like Sleepy Hollow and Edward Scissorhands and Nightmare Before Christmas are all stories that Ed would have told himself. So I think he can relate a lot of his past films into the character of Ed, because he could have basically just done what he wanted based on the novel Big Fish. So I think that he brought a lot of his own personality into it, a lot of his own directorial freedom. So I think that's about it.